What's up, everybody? You're very welcome along to tonight's stream. I said we go a little bit earlier tonight to allow you guys to maybe watch the Everton game later on, as it does have a bit of an impact on our top four ambition, so I certainly will be watching it. So I said, hey, let's come on a little bit earlier and do tonight's stream. Loads to get through, folks, as always, so strap yourselves in, sit down, don't go anywhere, hold that pee in if you need to go, don't put the kettle on. We've loads to get through tonight. Want to talk around VAR, of course, one of the big contentious issues over the weekend, both in Liverpool's game and in United's game, and I'm sure in plenty other games around the world of football as well. We'll talk around the silly rumours around Jurgen Klopp maybe being linked with the Bayern Munich job. We'll have a little look ahead to the game against Real Madrid on Wednesday, and lots of other stuff as well coming up. I hope that you're all in good, fine fettle, as we say over here in Ireland. And yeah, look, great to have you guys on as always. Loads of people in the chat, which is always great to see. Sorry, there was a bit of a troll in there earlier on, but I booted him out as soon as I came in. There was no mods there at the time, so apologies to the guys that had to put up with that nonsense in the chat beforehand. But yeah, how we all do? Nobody cares about West Brom, TTV Klopp. Let's be honest, mate. I know their game's on, but nobody cares. Nobody cares about West Brom. They're going down. Sam Allardyce and his gravy boat are going down. Clown. You got your little pat on the head, mate, and go away. I love the way the trolls come in. It takes you 10 times longer to write a nasty comment than it does one of our moderators to click a button. But look, here we go. What do you want to start off with tonight, ladies and gentlemen? Do you want to start off with the stuff around the VAR, or do you want to start off with the nonsense rumours about Klopp? Do you want to talk about the game against Real Madrid? This is your forum. I've loads of stuff prepared and ready to go. There's even a little bit on the Forbes football rich list as well that was released earlier on today, and remind me to cover that later on in the stream as well. See the Paddy Murphy duet? Yeah, he asked to do something together, and I'm sure we will at some point. I just have to free up the time, and we're going really well actually on TikTok. Those of you that may have a TikTok account, our account has doubled in the last 24 hours since we've started putting up more stuff. So if you're a TikTok user, make sure you go over there and you give Anfield Agenda a follow on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere we are. We're everywhere, us folks. Right, what do we want to talk about here? People are talking VAR and Klopp. It's a mixture of each. Right, let's go with Klopp first, because there have been some rumours put out today circling, and they are nonsense, so don't believe a word of them, that if Hansi Flick, the Bayern Munich manager, accepts the German job, and we all know that Jogi Löw is stepping down at the end of the Euro, so if he accepts that job, they think that they're going to come in and get Mr. Jurgen Klopp from Liverpool. It's not going to happen. I don't know how many times Jurgen Klopp has to come out and say that he doesn't break his contract. He signed a contract to 2024. Unless he gets sacked by the club, he intends on seeing out that contract. And Bayern Munich, although I'm sure that they would love to have Herr Klopp as their manager, it isn't going to happen before 2024, so I'm guessing they may have to turn their attention something to like a Julian Nagelsmann or something along those lines, because they aren't getting Herr Kloppo. And I don't even know if he ever would manage Bayern Munich. I mean, I don't have an in-depth enough knowledge of German football to know. I think he'd probably go and manage the national team at some point, but I don't know if Bayern Munich is a Kloppo kind of club. Obviously they're royalty of German football, but I don't know, he always, Dortmund was more his type of club, Liverpool more his type of club. I don't know if Bayern Munich would be, so I wanted to address those rumours anyway, because you can put them on Bullshit Island, because they just absolutely are not happening. Klopp staying here with us, whether Gerrard comes in after Klopp, hey look, that's a conversation for down the line that we'll have, but you're going to see lots of nonsense. People know that Liverpool content drives clicks, so linking Klopp to the Bayern Munich job, it's going to be easy clicks, it's going to be easy emotion from Liverpool fans coming in, commenting on the stupid little articles and stuff saying, never going to happen, never going to happen. So just don't fall for it basically, because he's not going anywhere. Right now, around VAR, this has been a weekend that probably stands out more than most, and there's been a lot of contentious VAR decisions over the past couple of seasons that it's been in. And it's getting worse and worse. I mean, the whole point of VAR was that it was going to be brought in. So we stop having the debates in the pub with your mates. So we stop having these conversations around, well, should have been offside, should have been this, should have been that. It's getting worse. And I'd like to put it to you good folks that the implementation of VAR has actually helped people cheat in the game and advance cheating in the game rather than stomping it out. Now, I want to draw your attention in particular to the Son incident. Manchester United taking on Spurs. I talked about it. I did a watch along of it on Mundo Sport, and I talked about it over there. To me, that perfectly sums up how somebody has cheated their way to getting a goal overturned. Son initiated the contact with McTominay. We've seen that. Everybody agree? Put his arm on his shoulder, tried to initiate the contact. Like anybody in that position would, you try and wrestle yourself free of the aggressive contact or the touch from the opposition player. In this case, McTominay pushed his arm around, and yes, he cut Son on the cheek. I will not deny that, but one, not enough to go down. As I always say, would you do that on the street or in Tesco with your missus if you're walking along with your kids? And secondly, Son goes down holding his left side of his face after being hit on the right side of the face. And finally, the last part for me that summed it all up was the referee seen it. The referee was looking at the incident as it transpired in real time. So where's the threshold for clear and obvious error? Where does it get brought in? And I couldn't wait for Dermot Gallagher to be rolled out by Sky today, because we all knew that he was going to back up his mates, he was going to back up the decision, and he was going to say that this has to be done, check for an offside, blah. We all knew what was going to happen. We all knew that as soon as the referee was asked to go over to that VAR screen, it was to sell the decision. We knew the goal was going to be ruled out, and it's helping cheats within our game. And I'm not singling out Son here. This is one incident. It's been happening a lot. I could talk about Vinicius Jr. doing it against Liverpool. Trent caught him on the shoulder / bottom of the neck, and he goes down holding his eyes like he's been poked in the eye, and Trent gets a yellow card for it. It's doing my head in. And I know it must be doing your head in as well, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me for 1 second. I need to quickly... Apologies. Yeah, it's doing my head in, folks. I heard Bayern lost. Jurgen Klopp. Ramadan, thank you for the super chat. Yeah. Who cares? He's not going to Bayern, mate. We all know that. Not at this moment in time, anyway. But look, on the VAR thing, it's doing my head in. I mean, we'll talk about the offside aspect of it a little bit later on, but I never thought we'd see a situation where VAR actually enhances the cheating in the game and actively gets people to go down more often because they know every goal is going to be checked. Anybody who's ever kicked a football in their life at any level will be able to tell you it's a contact sport. And that incident yesterday with McTominay was a complete joke, and Son, in my opinion, should hang his head in shame, as should the referee, as should the PGMOL, and anyone that backs up that absolutely farcical decision yesterday to disallow that goal. Now, you might be looking at me going, hang on, Craig, that was a United game. You're a Liverpool fan. Why do you give a shit? Same reason I say it when Liverpool are playing. The same reason I get angry at referees when Liverpool are playing. I say the same thing. It might be our club this week, but it'll be your club next week. And it happens over and over. And I think we as football fans need to come together in a collective voice to say, this is nonsense. This is not what we want. VAR was brought in for the clear and obvious error, but yet they've failed to actually define what clear and obvious is. Is a referee not looking at an incident and deeming it a foul in real time not clear and obvious? And why, if it's so clear and obvious, do we have to go back and look at the VAR screen in slow-mo? Because I could be wrong on this, but from what I've seen of the Sky camera showing the VAR screen, I don't remember them seeing it in full time. I remember them being shown it in half time in slow motion. And like anything else in life, slow motion makes things look infinitely more deliberate. So I don't understand it. It pisses me off. It's ruining the game of football. Then we haven't even got to the offside argument yet, by the way. We haven't even got to this offside stuff that Arsene Wenger and UEFA and FIFA are coming out and saying that there'll be an automated kind of AI system in place for the next World Cup or the next European Champion. Or actually, the World Cup, I believe they said it'll be in place for. It's not there to assist referees now. All it is at this moment in time is a get out of jail free clause for referees. And then we have the whole thing about not putting the flag up on offside decisions as well until the play finishes out. In some instances, yes, I understand that, but there's some really obvious ones where we all know they're a mile offside, and it's going to get to a point where there's a collision of players getting injured, or a player pulls up with a hamstring, or a player does his ACL and is out for the entire season, all waiting for that flag that we all know is coming. The man or lady in the middle of the pitch needs to be the one making the decisions, in my humble opinion. And VAR, as Pierluigi Collina came out and said today, should be used sparingly and should be only used to correct the really, and I mean blatantly obvious things. Was there a real obvious handball the referee seen? Was there a clear foul, and I mean clear foul, that the referee missed because maybe the angle wasn't right? I mean, referees are human. They won't see everything, and nor will the second officials, or the linesmen or the lineswomen, or the fourth official for that matter. So VAR is there and should only be used extremely sparingly, in my opinion. Now all we have is a set of football fans inside the stadium and a set of football fans around the world that don't know if we can celebrate. that don't know if the goal's going to be allowed or disallowed, how far they'll go back. And we all know in the build-up as well. Like, there was an incident yesterday in one of Manchester United's attacks where Pogba accidentally handled the ball in the build-up to one of the attacks. Now, it didn't end up in a goal, but you're sitting there as a fan knowing you can look away from the screen now for the next 10-15 seconds, because no matter what happens, if the player goes on to score, you know it's getting ruled out for that accidental handball in the build-up. It is just getting to a point where there's no common sense being used. The rules aren't in line with the technology, and we need to reevaluate this massively, because they're ruining the game for the fans, and that's the lifeblood of the game. We can talk about players and grassroots, but at the end of the day, it's people like you, people like me, people like every other fan around the world that spend their shillings on jerseys, that buy the Sky subscriptions, that get season tickets, that go to games, whatever it is and however way you support the sport. It's us that are being impacted by this and the bureaucratic nonsense that's going on with VAR. And now we move on to the offside part of it, ladies and gentlemen. Now we move on to the Diogo Jota incident in our game. I mean, again, I'm pointing at a Liverpool incident in this perspective, but you can apply this to your own club. I'm sure that there'll be somebody watching this that will have an example for Villa, for West Brom, for Arsenal, for Chelsea, for United, whoever it might be. It's happened to your club, and it's happening over and over again. I don't care how many times I'm shown that Diogo Jota incident. There's no way anybody's telling me that he wasn't at least in line. There's no way that anybody's going to tell me that that was a correct offside decision. It is farcical. We've seen Bamford at one point being ruled out for pointing to his player where he wanted the ball. He got ruled offside. Offside is supposed to be clear and obvious, surely. We can't have it that it's a toenail or a foot. And I can already hear people clicking, saying it's a factual thing, you are or you aren't. There is that. But there's the spirit of the game. As a game, as a sport, as a spectacle, FIFA, UEFA and all the other governing bodies want to sell the game around the world, want to make it and keep it the most popular sport in the world. To do that, guess what? You're going to want goals in the game. You're not going to want these 50-50 shouts ruled out, because that turns people away. That frustrates people. That is destroying our own sport from within, and it's something that we as fans, and I'm glad to see some members of the media and pundits now speaking up more and more of it. It is a joke and it is ruining it. The way it's being implemented, I can only speak for the Premier League because I don't watch enough of every other league. I've already had my doubts around officials and the level of refereeing in the Premier League for a long time. People always say, oh, salty Liverpool fan. It happens to your club and it's going to keep happening, and we need to find a solution for it. There are aspects of technology in football that have worked extremely well. Goal line technology is an absolute godsend, and it's something that I think has only enhanced the sport. And yes, like any other technology, when you are reliant on technology, there will be one or two occasions every blue moon where something goes wrong, where the camera wasn't working, or as we had the instance before with the goal line technology, there was too many players blocking the camera. That will happen, and we have to allow and accept for that to happen. Nothing is ever going to be 100%. But in a sport where so much of the decisions are subjective, why are we seeing this? Leave it to the referee. Leave it to him. And we've all heard the commentary, I'm sure you have, if you haven't, search for it on YouTube, of referees at times in all leagues around the world, when we've heard them mic'd up and we've seen the discussions. And I've seen a programme as well called The Man in the Middle that UEFA released. It's been, I think part 3 of it is on tonight, where you hear the referees clearly saying to the VAR room, will I go to the monitor? I've got to sell this. So they already have their mind made up, and they're wasting our time and they're conning us by going over to sell the decision. If you have to go and sell the decision, then something stinks as far as I'm concerned. And we as football fans are being ruined. And that's without even fans inside the stadium. The real lifeblood of the game. The people that go week in and week out. The people that spend their hard-earned money on season tickets. Inside Anfield at times with no big screens and stuff. They haven't got a clue what's going on. And they won't have a clue what's going on. This has to come to a head at some point. And we have to ask ourselves, are we happy with the way football is now? Or was it better when we at least had the fun with our mates down the pub arguing, or over the phone, or whatever, wherever it is you're having a chat with your mates, or if you're in your house you're talking with your wife or your son or whatever, your daughter, about the game and you have your disagreement. That was more fun because it was something that was a social aspect for us. But now VAR's come in and it dominates every single post-match analysis. Every single game we're talking about VAR. So in my opinion, it's far worse than it ever was. And I never thought I'd be saying this because I was pro VAR before it got introduced. And I still think in some aspects there is a place in the sport for VAR. But I don't think in its current form it's going to do the sport any good. I think it's going to harm it long term, and I think it's going to turn people away when we should be looking to attract as many people towards the sport as we can. I'm sorry that this has gone on for a good few minutes, folks, but it does my head in, and it continues to do my head in, and I don't want to find myself, and along with many other people, falling out of love with a sport that we've been involved in and we've loved for 30 plus years and more in many of your cases, because of technology and because of referees covering their own arses. It is a tough enough job, we grant them that, and the technology was brought in to help them, but there needs to be a line drawn in the sand between what is helping and what is just plain ridiculous. And when you see incidents like Son, and when you see all these 50-50 offside decisions that are far too tight to be in any way conclusive, you can hide behind the it's factual all you want, and Dermot Gallagher and these other referees can be wheeled out to defend their old mates all they want. We are not idiots, we are the lifeblood of the sport, and we deserve to be part of the conversation around the rules that go on around the game, because this is destroying the sport from within. Let's look at it from a point of view of, go back 15 years ago. America, big market that the sport wanted to try and conquer. USA 94 was a turning point for the sport. But the old argument from a lot of American viewers were 0-0. How can a sport be a draw? How can it be so dull? So we want to attract more goals into the game. So we've been lucky enough over the last 15, 20, 25 years to see managers like Guardiola and Klopp and others who've come in and implemented systems that allow attacking football, that enforce attacking football. We've seen so many beautiful goals and great games over the years. Look back, how many of them would have been ruled out? Look back at a lot of these great moments in history, and a lot of them wouldn't have existed if VAR had been around to ruin it like it is today. We need to take a stand, we need to protect our sport, and we need to fight for what's right. We all agree that nobody's going to get everything 100% right, but I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, but I would much rather go back to the days where I'm arguing with you on here, my mates, my colleagues, or Mark Goldbridge, or whoever it might be, about a decision than talking about a VAR incident. Because I tell you what, it's a lot more fun when we do it the other way, rather than having to be sold lies over and over again by those in charge who are covering for their own ineptities. Is that the right word? Ineptities? I don't know. Just inept clowns, basically, is where I'm going with that. My choice of my vocabulary isn't as extensive as it should be, probably, on these things. But look, folks, that's my say on it. I want to know what you guys think about it. Then I want to go and talk about the Forbes list as well. What else we got? Well said. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Every game they're talking about VAR, but only in the Premier League. It's working everywhere else with good referees. Again, I can't speak for every other league, mate. If people are here that watch a lot of other leagues, your feedback will be very much welcome. If you're watching this back and you want to comment later on, again, if you're a fan of Serie A, La Liga, Ligue 1, wherever it might be, the Bundesliga, let me know what the impact has been like in that league and how you view VAR. I genuinely would love feedback on this. I think Premier League VAR rules is ruining football, said Saj. I didn't celebrate that Trent goal. I thought Shaqiri was offside even though I knew he wasn't. Ruins what makes football different, and I watch rugby and football. Football is a joke at refs. Yeah, I think a lot of the sports, like tennis as an example, tennis have used Hawkeye, but tennis is a factual sport. There's no interpretation. Something's in or it's out. Very straightforward. The ball clips the top of the net and the umpire gets a little signal, or it doesn't. Do you know what I mean? So there are black and whites in this. There are definitives. Football has a huge grey area that involves a lot of subjective thinking and a lot of interpretation. And this is where, to me, you need people who've been in and around and played the sport. Now, I'm not here to slag off referees. I absolutely understand it's a difficult job. And I know that these guys train really hard for a very long time. Many of them starting out in their careers at 15 and 16 years of age. But they love the sport, we love the sport, and it's been ruined. So something has to give. That's all I'm trying to say. Glenn said, why can't we do it like rugby when the fans can hear the refs talking to each other? That would be great, mate. I mean, that's, you know, and I think it was trialled in Australia, I believe. And it was good to hear that communication. And we also did, by the way, hear that phrase that I spoke about earlier on, in that I'll go to the monitor to sell it. I'm fairly sure in one of the Australian games that I heard, the referee went over to the monitor to do that. But yes, it would be nice to understand the decision making. It would be nice. Nobody expects referees to ever come out after a game and explain the decision making. That's just never going to happen. We've got to be realistic about that. And they do need to be protected as well. But this system seems to be put in place more to protect the officials than it is to enhance the sport. At least that's my viewing of it. And as I said, I'm somebody who was pro VAR when it was introduced. And I think it has been used better elsewhere. And I think it can be beneficial to the sport, but only in minor instances, only very sparingly used. The offside one is the most difficult part of it, I think, for us to work out and agree on. Because you can be factual and say, well, the system's too good, a toenail offside is a toenail offside, or we can look at the spirit of the game, or we can find a compromise in between. But something has to be done, because we don't want the sport ruined from within. We don't want goals being taken away, glorious moments. I mean, how many of these goals that have ruled out could have, I don't know. I want to look at this from as many angles as possible. I'll give you one instance, and I'm sorry to bring this to betting. I'm sorry to bring it around to betting, but I was sent a picture from somebody earlier on. Somebody had a bet on 3 games, 3 score predictions, and they had a fiver staked on it. It came down to the last game. I think one was Leicester's 3-2 loss to West Ham. I think one might have been Liverpool's 2-1 win or something. I can't remember. And the last one was Manchester United's game against Spurs. And I think that they went for United to win 4-1. Now, with the goal ruled out from Cavani, nobody can say whether that would have went on to win the bet or not. Nobody can say what would have happened if Cavani's goal could have stood. But that person potentially lost 90 grand. 90 grand. Again, I can't say for certain that game would have gone on to finish 4-1. Because if United had scored earlier, tactics could have changed, anything could happen. But that's one aspect of it that we have to think about. Then we've got fans that are sitting at home that have had momentous moments ruled out. I mean, maybe life-changing moments for clubs. The difference between relegation and promotion when the season's ended. The difference between a player's bonuses, or the difference between somebody winning a Super 6 on Sky, or there's so many things around it that it affects. And that's before we talk about the part that you guys are all right about. The celebrating moments, the heat of the moment, that Aguero goal moment for Manchester City that won them the league, the Steven Gerrard moment for us against Olympiacos. Just so many things that with VAR. Look at Gerrard's penalty against AC Milan. Now, that was given by the referee. Imagine if that went to VAR. Who knows? Who knows whether the referees would have decided that there was enough contact between Gerrard for it to go down. Who knows? But we could have had a rewritten history. We could have had that amazing comeback on. United's 2-1 win against Bayern Munich. I'm sure we could look back at that and there's probably moments in it. The game was pretty much alright. And I think we all pushed too hard. I think we all tried to find the perfect solution. And I say we all because we're all involved in this in some way. Whether it be us arguing about the referee's decisions. But I think maybe we need to go back and just accept that it's an imperfect sport and that there will be mistakes made. I'd rather that than have it at a point where we're seeing cheating prosper and we're seeing players work the system again and coaches know to work the system. That's at least how I feel about it. And again, I don't want to single out anybody here. I have no agenda against Son. I think he's a wonderful footballer and he went on and scored a very good goal in the game and I've nothing but respect for him as a player. But it's embarrassing when you see players going down, top athletes going down like they've been shot for the slightest of things. Now, this isn't to be compared, by the way, to a forward breaking into the box at full speed. Let's say a SALAH, a Rashford, a Raheem Sterling, pick anybody you want, a Lacazette, whoever bursts into a box at speed and gets a little touch. That's different. You can be knocked off balance very, very quickly when you're going at pace. To me, that's a completely different thing. But that incident with Son and McTominay, it just sums up everything for me, I think, about what's wrong with VAR. And again, the Diogo Jota incident for us this weekend. We've had so many of them. The one against Everton. And every club will have had this. So I don't feel Liverpool are hard done by. I just see more of this from a Liverpool perspective because I watch Liverpool games. But at the end of the day, the sport's been destroyed. And whether you're a Liverpool fan, an Arsenal fan, or whoever you may support, you'll have your own moments. You'll have your own times where you know you've been screwed by VAR. And your club could have been maybe denied major moments. Derby victories, relegations, promotions, playoffs, cup finals, semi-finals, anything. I don't know, folks. It's tough. It's very, very tough. Remember last year, Sheffield hit the net. The goal line technology wasn't working. It was reviewed and still didn't give the goal. I remember, is that the incident where there were too many players in and around blocking the cameras? You know, my memory's like a goldfish on certain things, buddy, so I'm not sure if that was the incident you were talking about. Emmy said VAR is a good concept, but it's been poorly executed. To be fair, Craig, that is Salah most games. I knew there's always somebody who comes in and tries to pull this shit. It's a lot different, like I said, when a player's at pace, and pick any player you want. And people will call Salah a diver, people will call Rashford a diver, people will call whoever a diver. At the end of the day, we all have our own thoughts about our own forwards. And don't try and make this about a particular club. It's not. Like, I'm not trying to just make it about Son. I'm talking about the game as a whole. So don't be that person that comes in and talks about Salah. Don't be that person that talks about Rashford. Let's think about it from a more objective stance. Let's think about it from a broader picture. So whether you think Salah goes down too easily or not, I don't think it applies to this particular scenario, because what I'm talking about is feigning injury here. He was down for 3 minutes or something like that. It's a disgrace. Did you see the disallowed goal against West Brom today? I haven't been watching the game, mate, so no. VAR put the lines on the wrong man, and Digne, who scored the goal, was actually onside. I haven't seen it. Everton match ruined their season, said Mechatronics Geek. What else we got? VAR was put there to stop human error, but the humans ruin it and make errors. Yeah, look, football is subjective. We're all aware of that. It isn't, as I said, black and white. There's a big grey area in the middle that will always require human interpretation, or will always have a subjective decision. So then you have to ask, how can the technology help? And I have to say that it's not helping now, particularly when the ref has already seen it. Like, it's not like the ref's back was turned to that incident yesterday between McTominay and Son. He was looking at it, and he deemed to allow play to go on. We knew, though. I knew as soon as he went to the monitor that it was getting overturned, and it stinks to high heaven. The Mane offside against Everton still pisses me off to this day. Daniel, there will be lots of incidents, mate, and again, it'll vary by club to club. So it's very easy in a single instance for a fan to come in and say, laugh at me and say, haha, salty Liverpool fan. Fair enough, I may come across as a salty Liverpool fan on those occasions, and you could well be right. But you'll be the salty fan next week, and somebody else will be the salty fan the week after, when this hypocrisy rolls out. So don't have our own blinkers on. We're all fans of our own clubs, but we love the sport as well. And it's the sport that needs protecting, in my opinion. We all have our own clubs. We'll all have our own allegiances and tribal beliefs and tribal thoughts and all that stuff. But sometimes we need to take a step back and look at it from the bigger picture and realise that it's going to be us that's screwed. And I don't get this whole balancing itself out thing. That, to me, is just nonsense. Cave said, Craig, in my opinion, VAR is not the problem. Working everywhere apart from the Premier Leagues. Premier Leagues are rubbish in England. Look, I've long believed that the Premier League officials weren't up to scratch. Now, I've had conversations with people around a few bits and pieces as well that, let's say, suggest that there's some inequalities in the way some of their fitness levels are assessed. That's the best way I'm going to put it out there. How are you, GX or Giddy? I'm not sure how I'm pronouncing that. VVD offside. Again, we'll all have our own moments, mate. Well, there'll be lots of things from a Liverpool perspective, because this is a Liverpool stream, that we could bring up. But I wanted this to be inclusive. I want other fans to understand that I'm not just looking at this, and we're not just looking at this through red blinkers. We need to look at this from the whole football landscape, because at the end of the day, whether you want to go and watch the Euros this summer and you're an English fan or a German fan, French, Dutch, whoever you might be supporting this summer, it'll impact your country then as well. Although, as people have pointed out, it'll probably be a bit better officiated. And maybe we are a little bit underwhelmed with the officiating in England. I mean, I think it's fair to say that the best league in the world, and I do believe it is the best league in the world, should have a far higher level of officiating or a higher calibre of referee. And I do understand as well that refs work their asses off. I mean, most of them start refereeing 14, 15, 16 years of age and have a love of the sport. But I believe that love can be corrupted at times as well. And the likes of certain individuals have things they don't like about certain football clubs. Let me put it that way. Would it help if we had non-English referees to be in charge in the Premier League? See, that's something, Ryan, that I've always been a fan of. How many times have we watched the Champions League game as an example, where you'll hear a commentator say something like, the players will need to get used to a Spanish referee or an Italian referee or a Slovakian referee or Romanian, whoever it might be, and their interpretation of it. How many times have we all heard that? So the point that Ryan made there is a point that I've been trying to make for a long time as well. I'd love to see it get to a situation where referees are revolved around Europe. So there is no preconceived biases, and they are in a rotating system where UEFA's referees are refereeing in different leagues around the world, gaining experience and making the rules more clear in how that they're going to be perceived by officials or how they're going to be enforced by officials. You know, some leagues we see softer fouls than others. You know, there needs to be a set standard, and I love the idea of that group of referees, especially at the very top level. And look, we can say it's expensive. We can say it'll be a lot of travelling for the referees and stuff. It will, and I understand that. But maybe they do 3 months in one league and then move on. And maybe they are better compensated. Let's be honest, the money's in the game that we can compensate them better if that needs to be the case. But something needs to be done. That's a kind way to explain the fitness of the referees. Well, I'm talking about one official in particular whose name I won't mention because I'm not going to land myself in a whole lot of trouble. The average age of the English officials is 98. How can it be trusted to make the decisions? I've got friends who no longer watch the Premier League because they're convinced of cheating, mainly due to the decisions of Man United have profited from. Again, we've been called Liverpool. United players have been called Penandes. And that's just, to me, the lowest of the low with regards to just having sly, low digs. It's been proven over and over again that we've actually been more impacted than profited from VAR decisions. And I'm sure United fans will have their own stats that I don't have to my hand on them. I'm sure Arsenal fans for them and City fans for them. We all feel like we're hard done by. That's part of being a football fan. VAR outside. Look at the 2 games of Wolves and Liverpool. They're offside with their t-shirts, said Sashin. I mean, although I'm a Liverpool fan, I can only imagine what went through City fans' heads when that Sterling goal was disallowed against Spurs in the quarter-final of the Champions League. Yeah. And look, was I guilty of anybody else of being a bit overjoyed when it happened? Yeah, probably. I probably was. Because of my dislike of the way that club is run. But I get where you're coming from, and it is a fair point, and it's something I need to check myself on. And it's something that I need to be aware of as well when I'm commentating on stuff. Do you think United have already achieved second place? Yes, I do. I think if you're looking at the top 4 race now, in my opinion, there's 2 spots up for grabs. I mean, Leicester's wobble, the COVID breach, and actually give credit to Brendan Rodgers, by the way, for the way he dealt with that situation. I mean, I think he's to see the captain of Leicester as well breaching those rules like that. I mean, I was shocked to see that from Wes Morgan. I really was. So yeah, they're having a bit of a wobble, and whether there's stuff internally going on, I don't know, but I do believe that, there are 2 places now up for grabs, 3rd and 4th. So West Ham, Chelsea, Everton, Liverpool, to a lesser extent maybe Spurs. I think they can have their eye on Leicester and try and rein that in as well. So I'm a bit more optimistic about our chances. All we can do is keep picking up 3 points if we can. We've been on a little bit of a decent roll now in the Premier League. Beat Wolves, beat Arsenal, beat Aston Villa. Massive game on Wednesday, but that's a separate thing altogether. And if we can pick up points next Monday against Leeds as well, that's all we can do. And with the fixtures falling the way they are, a lot of these teams will be playing each other, so there will be points dropped. And if we can concentrate on picking up the 3 points, I think there's a chance, folks. I really do. And a few weeks ago I wouldn't have been this optimistic. I would have thought Leicester were uncatchable, and I would have thought that we'd made a mess of our chance of 4th place. But because of a few bits of consistency that I've always said, you run 4 or 5 games together in this league and you'll get yourself back into contention, and we're starting to do that now, and fingers crossed we can have a good run in, or a good mini season, as Klopp said, before the season finishes up. What else have we got? I hope Mane finds his form against Real Madrid. So do I, mate. So do I. And look, I've recorded my Real Madrid predicted 11 and score predictions video, as well as a chat with Leon from Boyle Sports. That video is going to be coming out tomorrow afternoon, so make sure to check it out. Also put out a video earlier on today where I listed off my 10 favourite Liverpool kits of my lifetime. So basically any kit from the year I was born onwards that I've liked. I've done my top 10 list. That's up on the channel there now. If you get a chance later on, please watch it. I think it's only 10 or 11 minutes long or something like that. Maybe it's a few minutes longer, but I love making those style of videos, and you're going to see a lot more of them going forward as well. Top 10 lists, stuff that we can leave up there and stuff that won't have a short lifespan, because a lot of the content we make is very time specific. So reactions to games, watch along, transfer talk. It's nice to have that type of content as well that people can go back and watch in a year's time, or maybe me in 3 or 4 years' time when new kits have come out, I can come back and look at that video and make some alterations to it. Maybe there's a few new kits that I've liked more. So lots of that coming up on the channel as well. So keep an eye out for it. Excuse me, I have a bit of a tickle in my throat. Can you give us a little hint in your score predictions? Is your score prediction positive? My score prediction's always positive, mate. You know this. I don't think I've ever predicted Liverpool to lose, nor do I think I ever will. So, you know, that should give you a hint. Klopp's not leaving. Absolutely right, Dave. I mean, for those coming a little bit late who are wondering about the title of the video and Klopp and all, there's been an article put out that suggests that if Hansi Flick was to leave Bayern Munich and take the German job, that Bayern Munich will want to come after Jurgen Klopp. He's not going there. We all know it. He said he won't break his contract. He'll be here till 2024. So I would imagine they may look to someone like a Julian Nagelsmann or something like that. Right, look, folks, before we get to the end of tonight's stream, there's a couple of little bits and pieces that I wanted to talk about. So the Forbes Football Rich List has come out again today, and I do like these. They always make me laugh. They seem to be coming out a lot more frequently than they did before. And surprisingly, even with their huge debt of almost £1 billion, Barcelona have knocked Real Madrid off top spot and are now the world's most valuable football club, according to Forbes, with Real Madrid now in second place. Manchester United have been knocked down into fourth place, with Bayern Munich just about overtaking them. So Barcelona valued at £3.46 billion. That's just ahead of Real Madrid in second place at £3.45 billion. Manchester United then, most valuable Premier League club, fourth in the overall list, behind Real Madrid, behind Bayern Munich, Manchester United valued at 3.06 billion, and that's dropped down. Bayern Munich just ahead of them at 3.07. Liverpool come up at fifth place. Liverpool valued at £2.98 billion. Now, look at the gap closing to Manchester United there. So, you know, they're at 3.06, we're at 2.98, so say almost 3 billion. The owners have done a very good job in building up the value of the club. Obviously, the Premier League TV rights help massively as well. But you got to give them credit where it's due. Manchester City then at £2.91 billion. Chelsea come in after that, 2.33 billion. Arsenal 2.04 billion. And then Paris Saint-Germain and Spurs come in after that. But the really interesting one for me here, folks, was Everton. Because we love a bit of banter with our blue friends, and we love to laugh at them and call them the Mersey billionaires, and you know, it's banter, it's fun, but the facts speak for themselves. Does anybody want to take a guess at Everton's value in this Forbes list? Now remember, Liverpool just a couple of quid shy of £3 billion. Everton's valuation £479 million. So 1/6 that of their local rivals. Also, West Ham moved into that list, 369 million. Leicester, 331 million is the valuation of their club. They've crept into the top 20 as well. So really interesting there, folks, to see a couple of those things. One, the gap Liverpool are closing again on Manchester United. How close Manchester City are to Liverpool as well. Chelsea obviously up there as would be expected. But yeah, to see Everton at less than £500 million when we're now worth 3 billion makes for interesting reading, I think, and leaves us in no doubt what colour Liverpool Merseyside is. And don't care if you're a local and hate me for saying that or not. It's a fact. What's happening with VAR now? We've gone through all of that, mate. I mean, I've had a long rant about that on this stream. Not 1 point not 1 point anything for those people that are asking. They're worth less than £500 million. So, how could Barcelona be top? They're bankrupt. You have to look at a lot of things there, mate. So you have to look at obviously the value of their stadium and their assets that they have, the value of the playing staff, the cash flow that goes through the club, and lots of other things that I'm sure I have no idea about, mate. Sponsorship deals and, you know, stuff that's way above my pay grade. I don't make these articles. Forbes are the one that put the list out. All I'm merely doing is bringing it to the chat. I was shocked as anyone to see Barcelona pinch top spot in that list, because it's been Real Madrid United battle for the longest time I can remember for the top spot. We always knew that Bayern Munich were a very, very, very profitable and very, very well run club, so it's no surprise for me to see them just pip ahead of Manchester United and come into third place in that list. But United fourth, Liverpool fifth. But I was very shocked, genuinely, and I don't mean this to be disparaging towards Evertonians. I was actually shocked to see the gap between the valuation of Liverpool at almost £3 billion and Everton just below £500 million. I didn't think you'd buy a Premier League club for that low money. So looking at Leicester as an example at £331 million, I wouldn't have thought you'd be able to buy Leicester City, or that's the valuation of Leicester City. A very well run club with a nice stadium, good owners, heading in the right direction. I would have thought that they'd been worth a hell of a lot more than that. So it just goes to show as well what winning, what doing well, what the right marketing and sponsorship deals can do for the valuation of your club. So we've seen what FSC bought Liverpool for, see what we're worth now, and we're still moving forward. I think we've grown our valuation by like 80% in 2 years, if my memory's correct, or at least one of the attributes towards something we've grown 80% over the last 2 years. I don't know if maybe that's sponsorship revenue or something, but we've seen our value or something increase by about 80%. Ladies and gentlemen, look, that's pretty much it for me tonight. I will be back tomorrow on Mundo Sporto for a watch along of Paris Saint-Germain against Bayern Munich. I hope that you can join me for that one. I'll have a late night agenda earlier in the night, so we'll be doing probably 7 o'clock to 7:35 or something on here tomorrow for that one. If you want to help us out, folks, as you can see top left hand corner of the screen, we're closing in on 90,000 subscribers. In fact, we're really close to hitting 87,600. So if you are watching at home and you haven't yet subscribed, please do hit that subscribe button. Drop a like on the video as well. Make sure you've got your notifications turned on, because with the transfer window coming up and football world moving fast, you never know when we're going to go live as well. So thank you to everybody for watching. I hope you guys have a lovely evening, and up the Reds.